How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm coming to you live here from my home office in Homestead. A lot of you guys have been DMing me, sending me a lot of messages, comments about the new fees that are going on in the Bahamas. And as a Bahamas boating ambassador, it's only right that I address them here for you guys and answer most of the questions that I've been getting all in one video together to help you guys know what the changes are that took effect now on July the 1st. Now, before we get started, full disclosure, guys, I do work as a boating ambassador for the Bahamas, but the opinions and the ideas that I'm giving you guys in this video are mine and mine only. I can't speak for the Bahamas. And even though I work with them, they cannot tell me what I can and cannot say either. So I'm just going to give it to you guys, no filter, raw, my opinion and what the changes are. So let's get right into it. Now, everybody knows the process of going into the Bahamas. I go to the Bahamas all the time, especially Bimini, since it's only about 50 miles away from Miami. It's the closest point. It's the entry to the Bahamas, how they call it. This is going to affect a lot of people, these changes, because basically the price just went up on the entry. I used to be able to come into the Bahamas, pay $150, and I would have two entrances or two entries in those 3 months to come in, as you know, and enjoy the waters of the Bahamas. But now all of that has changed. So let's go ahead and explain what these changes are. So first and foremost, let me explain to you guys what's the process of checking into the Bahamas. When you get to the Bahamas, you're supposed to get a cruising permit. You're supposed to fill out your immigration and all that stuff. And they give it to you there if you don't fill it out, but you need to have your passports and you need to have your cruising permit. Those are the two main things you need to get into the Bahamas. A lot of people ask me, do I need my passport to go to the Bahamas? Can I take my passport card? And no, you need your passport to go into the Bahamas. So that's first and foremost before you get there. Now, even if you get to the Bahamas, maybe you come in through Honeymoon Harbor, maybe you come in through Browns Cay, it doesn't matter where you come in. Before you step foot on Bahamian land, on any land, that just goes even for if you're just gonna take a dip in the water right outside the Bahamas. You shouldn't be getting into the waters of the Bahamas. You should be coming straight over to immigrations or customs to check in your boat before you start enjoying any of the things in the Bahamas. Even if, let's say, you're 5 miles offshore and you saw a huge weed line of, that might have mahi-mahi, you cannot set your rod out and fish before you even get to the Bahamas because you haven't even cleared yet and you have not got your fishing permit yet. So those are a couple things that I want to clear up because I get this question a lot and I wanted to clear that up. So you have to step foot straight to go to customs and immigrations before you enjoy anything in the Bahamas, before you go to the beaches, before you take a swim in the waters, before you put your rods out. So that's something that I want to leave very clear in this video. Now, the first thing I want to touch on is the AIS system. For those of you guys that don't know what AIS is, it's basically an automatic identification system. What this does is it shows up on the radars of all boats and everybody can see exactly where you are, what size your boat is, and they'll have information on your boat. I personally don't have AIS on my boat. Most boats under 50 feet don't have AIS. I know boats that are past 50 feet that don't have AIS system. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this was a big deal breaker for me. If this was gonna be a requirement, I don't know if I would have gone back to the Bahamas because I'm not a fan of wanting to put the AIS system on my boat. One, I don't need it. The United States doesn't require it. And two, I don't like that, I'm going to be basically tracked and people know where I'm at in the Bahamas at any time. I get it for the big ships. You need it because you have collisions and stuff like that. So that was one of the biggest things that I was super against. So they actually amended that. So I know there's a couple of videos out there that says you do need the AIS system that is required. They amended that. So the AIS is only required for boats that are over 50 feet. Okay, so if you're under 50 feet, you don't have to worry about this. There hasn't been any change whatsoever. If you're over 50 feet, usually boats that you buy nowadays come with it equipped, some of them, but if you don't, you would need to have that. If you don't have that, you are subject to a $1,000 fine, okay? And that is, of course, if you do get stopped. Maybe you go and nobody sees you, but you're running the risk that if somebody pulls you over or if they want to check at the marina for you and you don't have it on, you can't expect a $1,000 fine. So that was a big deal breaker for me because there's no way, shape, or form I was going to put that on my boat. They amended it to 50 and up. So as long as I don't get a boat that's 50 feet and over, I should be good to go. So AIS has been amended to 50 feet and up. All right, guys. So the big topic, the one everybody wants to know about, is the new cruising permit fees. So basically what they did was they changed it from 90 days to 12 months, okay? So before you would pay $150 and you had 2 entrances in those 3 months. I've even, back in the day, gone 3 times with that, 90-day entry. But I know lately they've been a little bit more strict on it, and it was 2 entries per 90 days. Any time in those 90 days. So you could have gone, in June, you have then June, July, August to get back in before the end of August on that same cruising permit. Now they changed it. So now the new fee is $500 for 12 months. Now, there's a big confusion with those 12 months. What the 12 months mean is if your boat stays in the Bahamas, it's good to go for 12 months. Of course, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people go for the weekend, maybe go for the week, then come back. So this is going to affect a lot of people. Basically now, once you pay your $500 cruising permit, you have another entry that you can come in. You can come in a second time, but it has to be in the 30 days. In other words, if you go on July the 1st, you have until July 30th to come back in before that cruising permit. You have no more entries. You have to then pay another $500 to get another cruising permit because you already came back out in those 12 months period. So let me slow that down a bit. You pay $500 and you get 12 months. You go to Bimini, let's say a weekend. You go home. You have 30 days to come back before those 12 months expire. So basically, if you were to take your boat and stay in Bimini, you could stay 12 months and the boat, you can leave. You can actually leave the boat in the Bahamas. You can leave and come back and you wouldn't need to do any new cruising permit because your cruising permit will be for 12 months. And the 12 months is from the day that you took it out. Okay, so if you take it out July 1st, you're good to go all the way to July 1st of 2026. Okay, so that's the big change there. Now, the cruising permit is for 100 feet and down. Okay, a lot of people were saying, there's a lot of videos out there saying if you're 50 feet and up, or if you're 34 feet and up, you have to pay $1,000. They did away with that. So now, all the way up to 100 feet, you have a $500 cruising permit. So there's a lot of my friends that have bigger boats that were like, man, now I got to pay $1,000 for a cruising permit. That's a big hole in the pocket. Even if they have a nice big boat, with 4 engines, it's still $1,000 anywhere you cut it. So those guys, you guys are also paying what we are paying, the ones that are 34 and under. So it's $500 for everybody. Okay. So just to kind of reiterate it, $500 you pay for your cruising permit. You go to the Bahamas. You have then 30 days after you enter to come back on that same $500 cruising permit. If you leave your boat in the Bahamas, it could stay there for 12 months and you won't need any new cruising permits. Okay. So hopefully that clears it up, so you guys kind of understand it. If not, in the comments, go ahead and shoot me. If that's still not too clear, if there's a gray area there you guys are not following me on, throw me in the comments and I'll answer you a little bit more directly, okay? Another thing that I want to address is the new passenger tax. So with your $500 cruising permit, you get 3 passengers. Every passenger after your 3rd passenger, so your 4th, your 5th, your 6th passenger, each one will have to pay $30 a piece. So example, if you're going to take 6 people on your boat, you pay your $500 cruising permit. That includes 3 people. And for the last 3, you will have to pay $30 additionally. So it will be $500 plus $90. Ends up being $590 to be able to go with 6 passengers over to the Bahamas. Another thing that changes, the fishing permits. So now the fishing permits used to be included into the cruising permit. So the $150 that you paid, it came already with a fishing permit. Now that's a separate fee that you have to pay. I'm not a big fisherman, but I know a lot of people that go to the Bahamas fish, so this will affect them too. So it's going to be $100 for under 50 feet, and that is per vessel. Okay, not per person. A lot of people have been there saying, oh, you have to pay per person. No, it's per boat. So if you have 10 guys on your boat, those $100 are going to cover everybody fishing on your boat. Okay. Now, if you have a boat that's over 50 feet, the fishing permit is going to be $300. So under 50 is going to be $100 for the boat. If you're going over 50, it's $300 per boat. Now, very, very important. If you do a 12-month cruising permit and you're going to leave your boat over there, that fishing permit, it's only for 30 days. Okay. So in other words, if you say I'm going to stay there for 6 months, Yeah, the cruising permit's good for a year, but every month you're gonna have to renew that fishing permit and you're gonna have to repay, those $100. I think it's a little bit steep, but I do respect and I do understand that a lot of people go over there, they fish a lot, and this is how they kind of protect their waters. I'm not a big fishing guy. If I'm gonna fish, I'm gonna fish down in the Keys. I'm not really going to the Bahamas to fish, even though the fishing there is really good. It's a lot better than, the Keys. I gotta say, they're right there par and par, but I would say there's a lot more people fishing in the Keys than there are in the Bahamas. So, I get it, but it is a big, steep price. A lot of people that would come and spend maybe $2,000, $3,000 on a weekend going to the Bahamas, that's going to kind of, change a little bit. It's going to be a lot more expensive. I'm not too happy with it. I'm not agreeing with it, but it is what it is. For us to enjoy those waters, that's the price we got to pay. I know a lot of people watching this video are going to say, F that. I'd rather go to the Keys. I'd rather stay in the United States. And I understand it and I respect it. And this probably, me personally, maybe I don't go to the Bahamas as much. If it's costing me that, I'm probably going to try to go, maybe in the summertime 1 or 2 times instead of 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 times that I go to the Bahamas, typically nowadays. So this is gonna hamper, a lot of people's trips. It's gonna cost you a lot more money to go. And I don't agree with it, honestly. I don't think it's a smart thing. I get it. I know there's 2 arguments. There's, hey, we've had the same cruising permit price since before COVID. It's true. Maybe they could have just brought it up $50 every year. So the first year, maybe in COVID, it was $150 and make it $200. Not go from $150 to $500, and let alone do it in the hottest month of the year. You're doing it on July 1st when most of the people are taking their vacations. I would have just rolled that out, for 2026, so that, with time, people can kind of get with it, not just drop it on their heads, right now in the middle of the hottest month of people going to the Bahamas. I've had people cancel their trips over this. And I respect it because, they were planning on spending, they had a budget, they've been planning this trip for a long time. And now that budget changed and now they're like, F that, I'd rather go somewhere else, So I respect it and I get it. There's a couple more things I do want to address before I end this video, like the anchor fee. Now they have an anchorage fee. I never stay out on anchor. I usually come into a marina, but now they do have an anchorage fee. So I usually stay at a marina or I buy a house that has a dock in the back. I rent a house that not buy, rent. So me personally, every time I go, I stay at Fisherman Village or I book a Vrbo or Airbnb that has some kind of dock in the back. So it's easier access and I save myself the money on the marina. But now let's say you're going to the Bahamas and you're not going to stay on land whatsoever. You're going to sleep on your boat. Now they do have an anchorage fee that if you're under 50 feet is $200. So you would not only have to pay the $500 of the cruising permit, you would have to pay the passenger tax if you're bringing more than 3 people. But then if you're not going to stay on land, if you're not going to stay at any marina, if you're going to just, let's say, anchor up at Honeymoon Harbor, you have to pay an additional $200. So now it went from $150 to $500 plus $200. Now you're looking at $700. That's a huge hike and a huge difference. Again, I don't agree with it. I think it's too much of a hike too fast. You should have done it little by little so people don't feel the brunt of it, so fast. So if you're over 50 feet, from 50 to 100 feet, so you're over 50 but not over 100, you pay $350 for the anchorage fee. And of course, if you're over 100 feet, they're charging $1,500 for the anchorage fee, which is crazy. Again, if you have a $100 million yacht and you're over 100 feet, maybe that doesn't hurt you or sting you that much because you're on that tax bracket level. But it's still, however way you cut it, it's $1,500, which again, very steep. So that is the cruising permits, the fishing permits. I'm going over here my notes, guys, by the way. The anchorage, the passenger tax. I think this is everything that includes the new changes. I have had some people that have booked their cruising permits before July the 1st, like myself. I knew this change was coming. So what did I do? I booked in to lock in the old price. Of course, if you're watching this video, this is not an option for you anymore. But what I did was they are honoring the older cruising permits. So since I'm going now to the Exumas, July 7th or July 8th, I'm going to the Exumas. I took out my cruising permit on the 30th before this took an effect. So I was able to lock in the old $150 cruising permit fee. But if you're watching this video, it's already past July 1st, so you kind of leave no options. I think out of all the islands that are going to get affected by this the most is the Bahamas. In the Bahamas, it's Bimini because it's the entry is where a lot of people go. Some people that are going way deeper into the Bahamas, like I'm going to the Exumas, some people are going to Nassau, they're probably spending a lot more money on their vacation. So this maybe is not such a big hit, but where I think that this is going to hit the most people is those people that come maybe once a year. Now, instead of paying $150 coming that one time a year, they live from out of town. I know guys that trailer their boats 12 hours just to get to Miami or Fort Lauderdale to then cross over to the Bahamas. So these guys are already coming out of pocket for gas. They're coming out of pocket for hotel. They're coming out of pocket for, of course, the fuel, everything that they got to purchase over in the Bahamas. And now they got to pay, it used to be $150. Now they got to pay $500 plus whatever that. And if they end up wanting to, anchor outside, that's another $200. So I think it's a bit steep. I don't agree with these changes, but they are what they are. I wish they would have rolled it out a bit different, but this is what they are. At least they admitted the AIS, because that for me, like I've stated a couple times already in this video, that was a deal breaker for me. There was no way, shape, or form that I was going to get the AIS on my boat. So I was like, bye-bye Bahamas, because I wasn't going to agree to that, and I definitely wasn't going to spend, $1,000 or whatever it costs to add that tracking device to my boat when the United States doesn't even require it. So at least they amended that. Now, one more thing that I want to touch on that not everybody's going to do, but I think it's for us that go frequently, it's the best deal, the best bet, is to get the frequent traveler. For those that are local, that live here in Florida or Miami or Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, they travel to the Bahamas a lot. There is a way for you to save yourself money in the long run. And this is only for the people that, go to the Bahamas, multiple times a year. They did do a pleasure craft. Basically, you can do a frequent digital card, okay? So with this frequent digital cruising card, so it's a frequent digital cruising card. What this does is it gives you 2 years, unlimited amount of entries. So if you're gonna come 3 times in 2 years, you're paying $1,500 in those 3 cruising permits. If you pay $1,500 for boats that are under 50 feet, you get unlimited amount of entries. So basically they give you a digital card, and every time you go, it doesn't matter how many times you go, you just pay that $1,500 for 2 years, and the 2 years start from when you purchased it. And I think that's what I'm gonna do personally. I pay that $1,500, and from here to 2027, I don't have to worry about taking out cruising permits. I don't have to worry about if maybe in 2026 they wanna hike up the price again, or whatever changes might come in the future. This $1,500 for boats under 50 locks in 2 years, and I could come in as many times as I want. I think that's the option that I'm taking. I know it's not viable for a lot of people that go to the Bahamas maybe one time a year. But that's what I'm going to do. If you have a boat that's over 50 feet and you want the cruising permit, the digital cruising permit for 2 years, it's $2,500 up to 100 feet. So if you have a bigger boat, if you're going to go multiple times, you should pay, the $2,500, and then you get to go as many times, and you don't have to worry about the 12 months or the come back in 30 days to use my second entry. You don't have to worry about that. Now, if you're over 100 feet, of course, you guys always pay a little bit more. So if you're over 100 feet, your 2-year cruising permit, unlimited entries, would be $8,000, okay? So $1,500 for 2-year unlimited amount of entries under 50 feet. Over 50 feet, but under 100 is $2,500. And if you're over 100 feet, it's $8,500. With that digital cruising permit, you can come in as many times as you want. Again, I think that's what I'm going to end up having, to just save myself money on the long run and not have to worry about, my cruising permit thing. Or maybe I want to go this weekend because my cruising permit is it's going to expire, and I end up going on a horrible weekend just to make sure I get that one entry in before it expires. So that's basically what it is. If you guys have any questions, or maybe something that maybe I left out, go ahead and jump in the comments and ask those questions there, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. But these are the new changes, guys, and change is not something we like, but unfortunately, to go to the Bahamas is something, it's the new fee that we got to deal with. I personally probably will get just that, bite the bullet and pay the $1,500 and just get it out of the way. And like that, I don't have to worry about, if my cruising permit is active or not active. So that's what it is. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification button. And I'll catch you guys on the next video, which will probably be to the Exumas. Peace.